You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katy.
Welcome back. Happy Thursday.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Right, here it is.
Thank
there
you.
it is.
We're doing that thing people love on audio shows.
Uh-huh. Well, I think this is something you can easily describe that people can easily picture.
I feel like I know what it is because you asked me what my shirt size was.
Okay, yeah, if you know it's a shirt, but you don't know
But
what's
I don't
on
know
the
what's
shirt.
on it. What if it's just a plain shirt? Sorry that took me so long to read, everyone.
Yeah,
and then I screamed.
Slow reaction time there.
Okay, it says, adventure is out there, but so are serial killers. I love this. Thank you.
You're welcome. I saw it and I was like, oh, that just screams Hannah. And apparently it makes Hannah scream too.
I know, I did not mean to scream that loud. Sorry, everyone. Oh, I love it. I also love, like, this kind of fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's real soft.
I know. Oh, thank you. I guess I should wash it.
I think I went with the large, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I felt like that would be one that would be really cute to be too big
and
a little baggy so that you can either just wear it, to be comfortable with a baggy shirt on, or you can, like scrunch it up or put a skirt with it.
Yeah. And honestly, I've been stealing. So Jarek and I have the same Blink 182 shirts, but his is a size bigger than mine. But I frequently still steal his just because I'm like, I don't feel like people knowing that I have a body under here. They don't need to see.
You mean like my muumuu dress?
Which is very cute.
It is so cute. My mother-in-law actually got me this dress for Mother's Day, and I love it. Like I said, it's got pockets, and it's just so, like, it's light.
It drapes so well, too. Like, it doesn't look like a muumuu.
No. I just say that because when I'm like, okay, it's perfect for wearing around the house and being comfortable. I can wear it out, and I do wear it out as is, but I also like wearing it with a little, like, kind of high waist belt thing just to give me a little bit of more shape.
Yep. You can dress it up or down very easily. I like it.
Yeah. And it's something that I could probably wear with, like, leggings and boots in the fall.
Yes. I love transitional pieces. I just bought...
Especially when they're super comfy.
I know. I just bought a bunch of t-shirt dresses several weeks ago. And I feel like I'm going to be able to transition them because they're just cotton. I'm like, man, throw some leggings under these and, like, a sweater, like a cardigan.
Good to go.
I'm here to do it. So, okay, well, I have an announcement. We have a new patron.
Woohoo!
Delayed reaction. And it's our girl Amanda, who we feel like we know and do love, and is our Illinois connection. So thank you, Amanda.
We're so happy to have you.
We are. I'll probably just send you an Instagram message instead of one on Patreon. But we'll get some stickers out to you and whatever else we promise with that. My second announcement is just the main source that I used for this story. And I'm going to go ahead and say, this is a story about a haunting.
Woohoo!
And I couldn't find a lot of online information about this. So I just took it from this book called Haunted Heritage by Michael Norman and Beth Scott. We'll get into it. Remember our last haunting story? With the
was it the one with the family?
Yes. And the girl who was like, I had a dream about dad having sex with a demon. Yeah. I feel maybe this is just me, and my personality is that the further I get into stories about people being haunted, the less I believe. But we'll get into it.
Just a little jaded.
I mean, there are some things. Okay. All right. So we have Alan and Deborah Tallman. Alan is 32. Deborah is 30. They have 2 children, and the children's names have been changed. I don't know if Deborah and Alan are also fake names, but the children are Kenny, who is 7, and he was Deborah's from a previous marriage or relationship, and then Marianne, who was 1. Okay. So they've got a 7-year-old and a baby. And Deborah was also pregnant with their 3rd child. So Kenny is about to be a big brother to 2 babies. So in 1986, they move into a modest 3-bedroom home on South Larabee Street in Horicon, Wisconsin. I don't know if I'm saying the name of that town right, but that's what it looks like. So they move in. This is like their dream home, right? It's a little ranch style, cute little house.
It's hard to believe that a ranch style house is anyone's dream house.
I know. It has an attached garage and a basement because it's Wisconsin. Okay. So a few months into living in their new dream home.
Again, it's a ranch.
It's a ranch.
Like, I mean, not to completely hate on ranches. They're like, I'm sure some people really like them, but like, I just can't imagine that that's anyone's dream home style.
Yeah. And like, it's unclear why. I mean, it's the 80s, so maybe that was just their thing. But like, they
could afford it. Therefore,
yes. And they were like,
a dream.
And like, it had enough space, and they kept saying like, we were planning on staying here like for a while. This was like,
this is their forever home until they have an empty nest and they need to downsize.
Yes, exactly. And it was like affordable. Like, they got a loan from, it was like the farmers, something. They got like a decent loan. And anyways, it's like when we bought this house, and then housing prices blew up and interest rates went sky high, and we're like, oh, just kidding, we can never move.
Yep. This is where we live now.
This is where we live.
Things are getting better, though, I think.
Yeah.
There's a couple of houses in my neighborhood that are for sale. And whereas, a couple of months ago, or like this time last year, those houses would only be on the market for like 24 hours.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, there were literally houses selling before they were officially like listed.
Yeah.
They were being sold.
That's insane.
And bought. And at exorbitant prices. And
it.
Nothing lasted on the market. These houses have been on, for sale for a little while now. So I'm like,
that's giving everyone hope.
Slowing down, or the prices are just still exorbitant that it's just impossible.
Yeah. Well, eventually, doesn't the economy kind of level itself out where it's like, okay, well, no one can afford anything anymore, so you either stop trying to sell it at that price or lower, whatever. Anyways, okay, so they're living in the ranch style home that Katy hates, and they will also hate the house soon. Don't worry. For different
It's not
reasons.
a dream home, but a nightmare home.
Nightmare home, yes. Okay, so they begin to notice that all of them are getting sick more often than normal. So Alan starts having back problems. Marianne, the baby, had to be hospitalized twice, once for chickenpox and once for an ear infection.
No.
Which I assume just means they were really bad cases of those. Yeah. Deborah said that the kids were at the doctor's office at least once a week for something. Like, it was just whatever.
Sounds like Walker before he got tubes.
I was going to say, it sounds like Walker in daycare. So they thought maybe, they're like, okay, well, the thing that changed is we moved into a new environment, so maybe there's something in the environment that's making us sick, like mold or, asbestos or something. So they had an inspector come by, and they didn't find anything. So they're just like, oh, well, maybe, who knows. Around the same time, Deborah began noticing changes in Alan's behavior. So he became irritable, short-tempered, jittery was a word that he used to describe himself. He would pick fights over small things. He's like a woman who's PMSing all the time. And I say that as a woman who acts this way when she's PMSing.
Well, you know that women who are like on their cycle, their testosterone is actually a lot higher.
I actually just learned that yesterday.
And so when women are on their period, like basically our testosterone levels are so elevated that we're close to, how men are on the regular.
All the time.
So basically, when we're being irrational, we're just behaving like men.
Acting like men. I was gonna say, does that mean that men should be given credit for not being total bitches all the time?
They're not total bitches all the time.
A lot of them are. You're correct.
I mean, I love my husband, but he's a little bitch a lot of the time. Then you give him coffee and he's
I
fine.
was gonna say, I can't say anything about Jarek right now because he has been really nice to me lately. So Alan is picking fights. He's just being, whatever. And after Deborah gave birth to their third child, who ended up being a daughter named Sarah.
Well, I'm also glad that at least while everyone else is getting sick, at least that didn't mess up her pregnancy or anything. Yeah, it didn't affect
the pregnancy. So she has Sarah in November, and when that happened, apparently Alan went on a drinking binge and threatened to leave, which I'm sure was so fun for Deborah.
Oh God!
I mean,
with life with a newborn is tough. Life with a toddler is tough. Life with a 7-year-old is tough. I don't have a 7-year-old yet, but I will, and I'm probably going to tell you in 5 years, life is tough.
You're probably not going to say, oh, wow, I wish I had a 1.5-year-old and a newborn right now.
There's a reason Walker's an only child, and why he'll probably stay an only child.
Yeah. So Alan's acting like a jerk. And that's just kind of like, I guess, in the background for a bit. They had family nearby. They weren't from this town, but they were from Wisconsin. So they had a lot of family nearby. And eventually, their family told them that they got a strange feeling when they were in the house. And so they would act like everything was normal. And then eventually they'd be like, how come mom's not visiting as much anymore? So Deborah's mother had come to help with the house while Deborah was pregnant. I forgot. It actually did affect the pregnancy because she had been diagnosed with placenta previa, which I guess is when the placenta attaches to the wrong spot. But essentially she was put on bed rest, more or less.
So basically it's, the baby itself is fine. It's more so you're at a higher risk of early labor or other potential complications with the delivery, but not necessarily any harm to the fetus itself.
Right.
And basically, bed rest. You just have to be more careful. Yeah.
Well, they told her to stay home and not do any housework. And I'm like, oh God, that would be, I mean, wonderful if someone else will come do it. But also, nothing would stress me out more than just being in my house.
Again, that's why Walker is going to be an only child probably forever because, with Shelton's schedule, I mean, if I'm not doing it, it's not getting done. Don't get me wrong, Shelton does a lot around the house. He does a lot of housework.
He's just not there a lot.
It's just it's not fair for it all to fall on him,
right? And
for him to do all of the work. So, well,
Deborah's mom came down to do all the things she couldn't do. So she was there almost every day until the baby was born. And so she finally told Deborah that when she would leave, quote, the farther away she got from the house, the more relaxed she became because she was so tense in the house. And likewise, Deborah's sister, who used to come visit and then gradually would just stop or made excuses. She finally told Deborah that, quote, she got headaches whenever she was in the house and actually got sick to her stomach. So the house was making her sick and she just didn't want to be there.
See, I would like to know what that house inspector actually looked at, because especially the husband's the behavioral changes, that sounds like there are these so harmful algal blooms, the harmful, they're basically neurotoxins, And they kind of, I don't know how to best describe this in like the easiest way to like the simplest terms, but most accurate terms. And it's not that they release like a gas, but it's basically they release this neurotoxin into the air.
Right.
And people who are exposed to it and have, their side effects and complications are increased irritability, some like short-term memory loss, like like driving home and not remembering the drive.
Yeah.
That happens to everyone on occasion.
Yeah, spacing out, disassociating,
doing it a lot, and not just in that situation. The irritability, outburst of like anger, just a lot of like personality changes like that.
And I wonder,
fogginess,
because Deborah doesn't work, right? She stays at home, and Alan is like a foreman of like a construction situation. So I wonder if he was getting exposed to something outside the house because he's the only one who's kind of showing those symptoms. And like, I don't know.
It also could be, also when you're pregnant, your immune system goes into like hyperdrive. Your body does a lot of work when you're pregnant. But it also could be that if she was home all the time and there more, she could have kind of built up a tolerance to whatever might have been in the home, whether it be a mold or some sort of pathogen in, like the air ducts or something like that. It could just,
who knows? I love that we already have theories before
before
any ghosts have shown
anything
up.
happens. I'm just like, and I'm also not immediately just saying that he's kind of a dick.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
I mean, that could also be like,
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt right now.
Yeah. We could have said he's just a man who's reacting badly to having a newborn. So they got a kitten, 6-month-old kitten.
Because that's what you need.
Exactly.
More responsibilities.
I get stressed out seeing other people do this. They got a 6-month-old kitten that they called Cat, which I kind of love.
That was the cat's name in Breakfast at Tiffany's. So sure.
Really? Well, Cat was constantly exhibiting nervous behavior. Out of nowhere, she would run out of a room and climb up a door or like climb the actual walls.
Yeah, that's a cat.
I was gonna say this might also just be cat behavior.
Yeah, that was Mira. Still is, like, less so now. She doesn't dart through rooms very often anymore.
Yeah.
But when we first got her, our apartment had a screen door to the balcony, and she would literally Spider-Man climb up the screen.
Yeah. Well, this poor cat, they began locking her in the bathroom at night, and she would just like scream from the bathroom.
That's the witching hour. That's when the cats like to go run and do their zoomies.
Yeah. So she, like, her behavior just, I guess, never got better. It was worse after dark. And eventually, I will say, they did the right thing, and they rehomed Cat. I assume they rehomed her. They said they didn't have her anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like these are not cat people.
No, they're not cat people.
No.
Turns out they're not dog people either, but that we will get to that. They don't do anything bad to the dogs.
I just if you're not pet people, stop trying to be pet people.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff in this that, like, kind of like we've said, is just the things that happen that they, I think, are interpreting as
they're kind of like scapegoating.
Yeah. Yeah, like a cat
basically they got a cat, realized that they probably bit off more than they could chew, like they didn't, it's just another responsibility.
Yeah.
And, sure, the 7-year-old can help out with cleaning the litter box or feeding it or whatever, but you've got to also remind and stay on top of the 7-year-old. Like, that's not his sole responsibility. It's still your responsibility to.
Yeah.
So you've got a newborn, a toddler,
and
a child.
Yeah.
And now a cat.
Excuse me.
Like,
yeah, it is easier to say like the cat didn't
no wonder
adjust well to the
no
house.
wonder Alan's like, I need a drink. I hate everything. This house is driving me crazy.
Okay, so right before Sarah was born, things got a little bit weirder than just like odd behavior and bad vibes. So Alan and Deborah went out on a date night before, because they're like, you know, we're about to have a baby. Let's go on a date night.
It'll be a while before.
Yeah.
It'll be a while before she'll feel like leaving the house and getting dressed up.
Yeah. So they had a 16-year-old come babysit, and it's someone they'd used before, like, no big deal. Yeah. So they had like a great night. They came home, and she was like ready to go, visibly upset. And
the babysitter.
The kids were in bed, like, and so they were like,
she was like,
what happened?
They're done. I need out of this house.
I need to leave.
Like, as soon as the car pulls in the driveway, she bursts out the front door. That's what I'm picturing.
So she told them that while she and Kenny had been in the kitchen, a chair at the table had started to rock back and forth on its own. That was all that really happened, was just this chair moved. But they asked Kenny the next day, and he said the same thing and was also like pretty clearly upset by it. And so I'm not sure if they were just like, oh, that's weird. They said like the babysitter had never, like, she wasn't the kind of girl to just like make up stories. It would be very out of character for her to do that. But they were just kind of like, what a weird thing.
Yeah.
Nothing, I guess, to look into.
It's a weird prank if it's a prank.
Yeah, weird. Yeah, for sure. So several months later, so after Sarah was born, and I guess after Alan went on his drinking binge and came back.
Yeah, got over that.
Like, who knows? They decided to move the girls into the same room. Which, okay. So
no, because if you've got a toddler that's sleeping through the night and a newborn who definitely doesn't sleep through, like, bruh.
And so from what I can tell, Sarah is 7 months old at this point, and which means that Marianne is 2, maybe 2.5. Like, so anyways.
So basically Walker's age right now.
Yeah.
I would not have a newborn, or not even a newborn, but like I would not have an infant in his room. Like,
yeah. Yeah. So they basically have the kids swap rooms. So Kenny had been in like the bigger room. So they put him in the smaller room, and they put the 2 girls in the bigger one. So they got bunk beds.
I'm sorry?
I don't understand, because they have a toddler and a 7-month-old. I don't know why unless they were just like 4 later, because to my recollection, Dad, correct me if I'm wrong, my sister and I got bunk beds, but I was at least 4, I want to say, before we...
And did you have the top or the bottom bunk?
Oh, no, I had the bottom because I was the youngest, and I wasn't allowed to choose.
And therefore, Lauren was... What?
She was 7 when I was 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
so, definitely unlikely to, like, roll out of bed, and I'm sure that there was, like, side rails, too.
There's a rail, for sure. But let me tell you, when I got that room to myself, when Lauren moved into the other room and I got the bunk beds, I took that top bunk. I was so excited.
And then after the novelty wore off, you're like, man.
Yeah, then I was like,
having to climb up.
This is real annoying.
Into bed and then climb down, like waking up in the middle of the night, having to go to the bathroom, being like, okay.
To climb over a whole railing.
How bad do I have to go to the bathroom? Is this something that I could probably like just hold it and like convince myself to go back to sleep and go in the morning, or like do I need to go so I can go back to sleep?
Yeah It wears off. Well, I will say, spoiler alert, Unsolved Mysteries eventually does an episode on this situation. They claim that this bunk bed that they got secondhand was like the conduit for all of the bad behavior, the bad stuff that
See,
happens.
you said unsolved mysteries, and I was like, yeah, the unsolved mystery of getting a bunk bed for,
For
a toddler and an
7-month-old.
infant.
Yeah, but like some of the descriptions that you'll find online of this case, it's like, oh yeah, a haunted bunk bed that like wreaked
Lord.
havoc. I was like, okay, I don't think there's any evidence that the bunk bed did anything. Leave it alone. What?
What'd that bunk bed ever do to
I
you?
know. But like, so the same night something happens. But I would like to point out something already happened. It's called the chair moving, and you know, Alan turning into a dick.
Yes, but once, as you say, the conduit was there, it was a whole lot easier for the forces of darkness to wreak havoc.
This is such a, and like, again, if it's real,
like,
I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but
the bunk bed was like glasses.
oh yeah,
It's like, you know, without your glasses, you're like, yeah, I can see the general like shape of things, and I generally know. Like, I would know who you are, more or less, but I don't know if I could.
you wouldn't see any details.
Yeah, like, you could probably be making a face at me, and depending on how close or far away you were,
Right.
couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But then you put glasses on, and now you can see some stuff.
You can see the truth.
Mm-hmm. Now I can wreak some havoc. Actually, I feel like I'd probably wreak much more havoc without the glasses.
So the same night of the room swap, Kenny is in his new room by himself. And after he's put to bed, he, after a little while, comes out of his room because something's wrong. So they had left the radio on for him. It was like a clock radio. And they left it on for him to listen to music while he went to sleep. So he said the station changed on its own.
So speaking of the radio changing stations, when I was looking for, you know, baby camera and monitor for Critter's room, I was like, I want one that is not hooked up to the internet, because I had read a bunch of horror stories, and I'm still seeing horror stories about basically people hacking into those cameras and then talking through the camera to the kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, several women had commented on the mom Facebook group about, like, you know, our kid woke up screaming and we didn't know what was going on, and we went in there and, you know, she kept pointing to the camera and whatnot, and it was one of those that would also record so they could go back and like replay, and they could hear it on the recording.
So creepy.
And it really was creepy words and stuff.
Who does that?
Horrible people. So yeah, that would that's just, it made the radio changing station definitely made me.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Well, Alan and Deborah thought like maybe just some static, or maybe like, I don't know, radios are weird. Maybe it just picked up another station.
Or he fell asleep listening to like one DJ and then woke up and it was someone else, and they were playing like different kind of music and different talking, so he just thought the station changed.
Yes. Yeah. So,
as a parent, that's what I would.
Yeah. So they were like, it's just fine. Go back to bed. So they put him back to bed. A few minutes later, he comes back out again, and he says, it happened again, but this time I watched the dial turn and the little spindly thing go around. So then they were like, all right, you just won't have a radio in your room. We'll just,
let's
just
turn
remove it. So they took the radio out of his room, put it in the front closet. But
tell me that the unplugged radio in the front closet is not going.
No, but that would have been a great move, ghosts.
WTYX.
I love when movies do that and they make like what is supposed to be like a pleasant or like really innocuous sound scary as fuck, because it's like, that's not supposed to be happening. Ooh, man, I get goosebumps thinking about that. Like just thinking about a radio call in the closet. Ugh. Okay. So after this incident, Kenny is like, I'm on to it. So he starts to grow more anxious about his room. I actually feel really horrible for him as a child who grew up with anxiety. So he didn't like to go into his room alone at night. He's rarely sleeping through the night.
Which, again, as a parent, you're like, okay, is something actually going on? Or is this just like a normal childhood phase?
Yeah.
Because kids to be afraid of the dark, totally normal. Some kids go through it, some don't.
Yep.
I think most kids do have a afraid of the dark phase. Some are earlier, some are later on. They all like kind of manifest differently.
Natural fear. Darkness is scary.
Walker's starting to develop a fear of the dark.
Aww.
And so we'll walk through the dark hallway. And if he's got his, especially if he got his Ellie, he'll go, "It'll be okay, Ellie. It'll be okay, Ellie. It'll be okay, Ellie." And he just, hugs Ellie, tells her it's going to, reassures Ellie that it's going to be okay. And then we're out of the dark and everything's fine.
He's got such good coping skills. Like, better than me.
Right?
I know.
He's much better at regulating his emotions than I am.
Like, I gotta remember that.
Take a breath. I have to
take a breath.
I have to tell myself when I start getting frustrated, like, take a breath.
Yep. Kenny also starts to say that he's hearing noises that sound like someone banging on the pipes, which again, that can be a normal sound depending.
But also, they've been in this house for a while now, right?
Yeah.
Like, what, a year maybe?
Probably close to a year.
Because, I mean, it's been at least 7 months since the baby was born.
Yeah.
And she was pregnant for a little while.
Yeah.
So, if this was shortly after they moved in, I would think, yes, absolutely, he's probably freaked out because it's a different house. There's different neighborhood sounds. There's just different regular house sounds.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if he's been there for a year and is now like hearing something new and different, I'd be like, okay, well, what has changed?
Right. Yeah. Well, Deborah thinks that maybe he's still just adjusting to all of the change. Like, he got put in a new house. He got put in a new school. Now he's got a new sister. Like, there is a lot happening. Like,
they had a cat, and then they didn't have a cat.
Had a cat.
Now he's the room that he was in. He's got to switch bedrooms.
Yeah. There is a lot of different things for him.
And like, I don't know if it's like literally the room right next door, or if it's one down, or like maybe he's closer to the neighbor's house and can hear noises from their house or something. And, how much of it is him, like, just kind of, like, acting out and, like, seeking extra attention because, toddlers take up so much attention and newborns take up so much attention. And so he needs attention, too.
Yeah, he does, for sure. So one night after they finally got him in bed, he comes running out of his room. And he says that there's a suitcase that they keep stored under his bed. He said that it had slid out from under the bed on its own and like went all the way across the floor and then went back under the bed. Which I don't know why it going back under the bed is the creepy part for me.
I mean, it's all hella creepy.
Yeah.
And so when I was little, I slept with the door open. I still prefer to sleep with the door open. But we've been sleeping with it closed lately because then I won't hear every little noise that Critter makes, and also to keep the damn cat out of our bed. But that was one benefit of when I would wake up in the middle of the night freaked out by something, and I was laying in bed like, okay, if there is a monster under my bed, all I have to do is like stand at the corner and launch myself and take 2 steps, and then I'm out of the room. Like the door's already open, so I don't have to stop and open the door.
Yeah.
But if the door was closed, I would be weighing my options, be like, okay.
Yeah.
Is it safer to just stay in bed? Or do I want to risk getting out of bed, taking the extra seconds to open the door? Meanwhile, something could reach out and grab my ankle.
Yep, that's true. The door could be stuck.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that can happen.
The ghost could lock it.
The ghost could lock it. So Alan and Deborah thought Kenny that he's, just trying to get attention. Maybe he wants to stay up later with mom and dad, watch some TV.
Also, again, like normal childhood.
Yes. So they put him back to bed, and a little while later he comes out with the same story. And so eventually Alan says, okay, the suitcase is going to go live in the closet with the clock now. So they're removing the problems.
They're not solving the problems.
They're not. Yeah, they're putting the problems in the closet.
No, I think they're getting rid of the problems toys.
Yes, that's correct.
The clock is not the problem.
No.
The suitcase is not the problem.
No. So they also begin to hear Marianne, who I believe is around 2.5 at this point.
So she's talking.
Well, they hear her talking to someone, which...
The shadow people.
Again, I'm like, so like what Walker does.
What a lot of 2-year-olds
yeah,
do.
Exactly.
They will sit in their room and talk to themselves, which is a good, healthy thing. It helps develop their communication skills. It's literally, they are practicing talking.
Yes. So they would hear her giggling and talking in her room. Sometimes she would say, "Hi there," which I don't like that part. And when they would ask her, like, who are you talking to? She would say, "Don't you hear it?" And then she would make I don't really know if this is what they mean, but to me it sounded like they were saying she would make this sound like this was the voice she was hearing, and she'd go, "Shh, shh, 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 shh." And like, that's what was talking to her. Sometimes she would get scared of whatever it was and come to her parents' room. And when she did...
Climb down from the bunk bed?
Yeah. And when she did, she would say, "It's coming." Or,
God.
"It's here."
Kids say the creepiest stuff, man.
And she
Luckily, Walker hasn't said much creepy things,
Yeah.
which is surprising in our old house with the shadow people.
I know. It'll come out on like his 7th birthday. He's had a friend this whole time. Ellie actually talks back to him.
I thought it was totally normal. And I'd be like, that is not normal.
He's like, "Ellie has a voice. Don't you also hear it?" And Marianne apparently seemed confused as to why her parents could also not see or hear it. All of the kids at this point, I guess including, Sarah's a baby, but
she's probably experiencing things but not being able to
True, yes.
express that.
So at least Marianne and Kenny, and then also Deborah, are all experiencing nightmares, which again, if you're stressed, I don't know, I'm like, nightmares are not an indication of a haunting. They can seem that way if you think you are already haunted, but
correlation is not causation.
Yeah, and I feel like you're much more likely to have nightmares if you're in like a high stress situation, because your brain does that.
Mm-hmm.
There was one night when Alan was putting the kids to bed because or the girls specifically, he'd have to stay in the room with them for a little while. He said he heard what sounded like mice or rats crawling around.
Oh, and that would be the...
Yeah, probably. They had the house checked, probably by the same inspector as before. It was Rudolph the bellboy, or Randolph the bellboy, who doesn't do his job well.
Don't trust him. He is not getting a tip.
And like before, this guy's like, "You don't have any rodents," which, like, to be fair, rats and mice do leave a lot of evidence behind. So like, but I guess if you're not like in the walls, it's hard to see. But our rat that we had made himself very apparent. So this activity that they were experiencing would come like in spurts. So like, everyone would be having nightmares, they'd be hearing noises, Marianne would be talking.
Then things would mellow out for a little bit.
Yeah, and then they'd have a lull for like a week or so.
I mean, again, that could be kind of stress related, you know, and like stress begetting the stress. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's some, regular stress that leads to the nightmares, and then you're like, oh no, there's, the haunting activity is stirring up again, and so everyone is all kind of tense and worked up, and they're looking for the haunting. And then after a while, it slowly starts to peter off. They start to relax. It peters off more. Mm-hmm. Everything goes back to normal again.
Yes. So one time, Alan is down in the basement because it's Wisconsin, and he was painting down there, and he takes a break to help put the kids to bed. And when he comes back, the paintbrush, which he had laid down in the paint tray, like you would, was now in the paint can, but like handle down. So the handle is completely submerged in paint. And I thought of this when you were talking about like the possibility of something that was, you know, like affecting him neurologically, that was causing him to like forget things.
It's called ADHD.
Well, yeah, that too, but also, you know, if he, you know, spaces out and forgets that he you know, forgets that he maybe laid the brush across the paint can, you know, and then when he's going up the stairs, it kind of jostles everything and it falls down. I don't know.
So, yeah, I mean, all right, yeah. I got nothing except I put things down all the time, and when I go look where I set them, they're not there, but over there instead.
Yeah.
I don't blame a ghost. I blame it on
your brain.
My executive dysfunction.
Yeah. So after he cleans off the brush, he thought he saw a shadow go across the basement.
Did they still have the cat at this time?
No, they don't have the cat. They don't have cat anymore. And he said he got like a, you know, like a creepy feeling, but he was able obviously to like brush that off. He was able to kind of convince himself that maybe he had put the paintbrush down differently than he remembered. And, you know, just kind of...
Maybe he set it down and he wasn't looking and it...
Yeah, I mean...
Fell.
Who knows? Maybe it's the rat that you have. That would explain a lot. What if the whole thing was just a rat that was in the wall?
The ch-ch-ch sound?
Mm-hmm.
Friday the 13th. First time I ever saw that movie was when I was camping in the woods.
Oh, how fun for you.
It was great. It was like, was it freshman or sophomore year of high school? Or I think it was sophomore. Yeah, because we had biology, and our biology teacher took us all camping for a weekend. It was a great time.
And then played that movie for you?
Yeah, and then we, he got the projector and...
That's funny.
I mean, it's PG-13 maybe?
Yeah, it's not.
I think so.
Yeah, the setting more so is the scary part.
You know, he played a couple of movies for us throughout the year. Not like, all right, we're watching a movie today. It was always very relevant. And so, like, Gattaca is the one that I can think of. And I still...
That's streaming, by the way.
Is it?
Somewhere. Yeah, because I came across it. It's like on HBO or something.
It's a great movie. And it's like a good... It's a thinker.
Yeah.
And I was literally talking about it yesterday because we were all hanging out and somehow it got to, Dennis was there. And we were teasing like, see, Dennis, don't you want to have another one? And he's like, if I could guarantee it was a boy, then yeah, sure, I'd do one more. And someone was like, you can choose. I'm like, Gattaca.
You're like, you can choose, but it's going to lead to bad things in the future.
I mean, yes and no. Yeah. It's going to lead to a different type of prejudice.
Yeah.
Because we'll all be over the whole black, white, gay, straight thing.
I was going to say, we're so good at prejudice right now.
Yeah. We are crushing it.
We're great
on that prejudice game. No, people are always going to find some reason to hate another group of people.
Yeah.
It's never going to go away. Anyway, but also I remember on one of the tests, because we were talking about, you know, DNA. And I remember on one of our exams, you know, we're talking about what are the letters in like RNA strands, like U, T, C, A, and whatever all the letters are. I cannot remember them right now. And he's like, which of these sequences would not be a potential DNA sequence? And the wrong answer was Gattaca. Nice. I was like, that. I see what you're doing, Teach. And I respect it.
It's one of those memories that I feel like so many people our age have that's like specific. I don't know. Like the movie.
Oh.
Yeah. Like watching that movie in science class, or I think I watched mine in like a history class maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong. It was like one of those this movie is approved to show your class if you don't have anything to do that day. It's like that and The Outsiders, which is a violent movie, but such a good movie.
I feel like we did watch that one in English class.
Yeah.
But also, like, Gattaca wasn't a like filler movie. It was 100% very kind of It was a special treat. I think it was like a Friday treat. You know, we were working all week on DNA. Like this whole segment was all about DNA, and this is and like I said, it's a thinker. I still think about that movie from time to time. I'm just like, you know what, Gattaca.
Is it bad that I'm like,
watching a forensic files or something?
Go to a class for a week, and like I would get sick of it soon. But like, man, go to a class for an hour, learn something, go back the next day, learn something more, build on what you knew, what you learned. At 34, that sounds great. At 16, it was terrible. True.
So there's podcasts. Also, you can audit classes.
I think work at a college.
I think MIT also has like a big catalog of online classes, so you can basically take courses. You know, obviously, I think it's more so watching lectures and maybe having some reading material, but there's no like homework or tests or anything. But basically they've got, I believe MIT has like a free catalog of just their classes, so you can go learn whatever you want.
I might have to look into that. Okay, the basement still. A little while after the paintbrush incident, they found one of the basement windows removed and sitting on the ground, propped against the wall.
That doesn't sound like a ghost to me.
No, and they did think, oh shit, someone broke into our basement. Their thought was it didn't make sense because they didn't know how the person would have gotten back out because the window was like high up. To me, that says they might still be in your house or they got out another way.
So to me, that's somebody's living in your house when...
Yeah. When like, it's not just a rat now.
It's someone living in your crawl space.
Yes.
Or the weird triangular crawl hidey hole behind the toilet.
Yes. Well, speaking of dogs, the family got a dog.
Did they name it Dog?
No, I don't know what they named it.
Probably something like Rover or Spot.
Probably.
Or
it's the
Rex
late 80s. And I think
they're not animal people.
I know. Okay, so here we go.
If a 6-month-old kitten is acting erratically, they don't know shit about animals. At least they don't know shit about cats.
Yeah, and like what with this dog, this just very much sounds like, okay, you got a new dog. Like this sounds like when we got Kelly. So they got this dog. I don't know how old the dog was when they got it, but they had been told that he was house trained, but he like wasn't completely, or he was in a new space.
Yes.
Like
new people, new environment. You got to just work on it.
He barked all night. Okay, Kelly also did that when we first got her. This is my favorite. He wanted to go outside and then immediately wanted to come back in. And I wrote, all normal new dog behavior. Also, all normal old dog behavior. Like, Kelly did that today.
Olive does that. If she goes outside and is like, ooh, the grass is wet. Nope.
They all, fun
It's
tip,
hot outside.
They always want to go outside. And then if outside is not to their liking, they will immediately want to come back in.
They want to be comfortable.
Yeah. Anyways. They also said their dog...
Does this count as a rant?
Yes, absolutely. We should have one too where it's like Ken and Katy don't believe and belittle a family that's being haunted.
I'm not trying to belittle. I'm trying to find the rational explanation for a lot of things.
Yes.
But I am belittling them for getting pets and not knowing anything about them.
Yes. To their credit, they did keep this dog. They said his behavior did seem to like even out a little bit.
oh, you mean the dog got comfortable in his new surroundings
Yeah.
and was like, yes, I know how to pee outside and I know what door to go to.
Yes.
And how to signal to these people that I need to go outside.
Yes.
So we've figured this out.
Yes.
And I'm also more comfortable in the house so I can just mellow and sleep at night.
Yeah. And also, I will say, like, I do think that, like, if you get a pet and you realize that, like, you're either not ready or you can't handle it or whatever, like, yes, do rehome that pet. Like, that's better than you keeping it and, like, neglecting it or whatever.
Yeah. But also, like,
maybe do
this
some
is an
research.
adjustment not just for you, but for the animal. And, you know, you guys don't speak the same language. Like, imagine it's basically, treat it like it's a foreign exchange student. And they don't speak a lick of English, and you don't speak a lick of whatever language they speak. And you guys gotta figure out how to communicate. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in this day and age now, there's no excuse. You got the internet.
True. That's true.
You got issues or questions? There are plenty of people with opinions out there to help you out.
Very true. A lot of opinions. Okay, we have a timestamp now. It's now October of 1987.
And what year did they move into the house?
They moved in. That's a great question. You normally remember this.
Oh, I'm terrible with dates.
No, you're not.
I just, it depends on my mood and how well I started paying attention at first.
They moved in 86. I think it was spring of 86.
So a year and a half in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot has happened in a year and a half.
A lot has happened.
They
True.
moved in. They were sick a lot.
They had a baby. They switched rooms. They put a baby in a bunk bed.
Moved kids around. Had some hauntings. Got a cat. Got rid of a cat. Got a dog.
Had a person living in their crawl space, probably. Might have rats. Well, all of that gets to Alan, and he gets a really bad sinus infection around this time. And it gets bad enough that he has to go to the hospital. Like, I don't know, maybe he had like a fainting spell or something. I don't know. But it's like, oh, we need to take you to the hospital now. So his mom came over to watch the kids, and Deborah takes him to the hospital, and he's fine, obviously.
God, that's got to be so nice to have your family so close by. So they could just pop in for that.
And they've got both of them. Ugh. Man.
Yeah.
Also, like, a dream to raise your kids, like, within easy driving distance of both grandparents.
I mean, granted, Dorothy is like 3.5 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like when I went to the hospital for that stomach bug.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she did come in and, you know, stay with us for several days to help out.
Right.
But, I mean, that night we had to call Connor.
Yeah.
To come and, like, we just need a body in our house. And then then Shelton had to go home in the morning. And you had to pick me up from the hospital and bring me home.
He was so funny with that phone call. So casual. So Shelton. When he called us. It was like a Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
And we were just like in bed, whatever. And
I didn't know if it was him or if it was me that called. I couldn't remember.
No, it was him, because he's just like, oh, how y'all doing? Wondering if one of y'all could pick Katy up from the hospital. And we're like, oh my God. We're like, first of all, yes. Second of all, why? Why is she in the hospital, Shelton? Don't open with that.
Putting on pants right now. Like, we're on our way.
Going now.
Like, no, she's fine. She'll be there for a little while longer.
Like, okay.
What do you mean she's fine? She's not fine. She's in the hospital.
Oh my gosh. You did not look fine when I picked you up.
I didn't feel fine.
You were not looking great. Okay, so Alan's having his moment.
He's probably also not looking great.
He's probably not looking great. But they get things sorted out. They come home. And when they come home, Alan's mom is like, I need to leave. I'm so glad you're feeling better, son. Goodbye.
Welcome home. I'm out.
Welcome home. Yeah. And so eventually, she didn't tell them right away, but eventually they were like, hey, why did you want to leave our house so soon?
You know, sinus infection's not contagious. You need to get away from the germs.
Yes. She told them that on that evening, after she had put the kids to bed, she was laying on the couch, which was directly beneath. They described it as a large front window. I'm picturing like a bay window, maybe, or just.
I'm picturing more like if you got a couch beneath it, I'm imagining a big picture window.
Oh, okay, yeah. I forgot that those are things too.
Mm-hmm.
But
because if you had a bay window, you're not putting furniture in front of it.
I don't know. It's the 80s. I don't know what people did.
Yeah, they did a lot of weird shit in the 80s. Did a lot of blow.
Yeah, a lot of. Maybe that's all this.
Wasn't there a big feng shui craze in the 80s? No, I think that was the 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Trends are cyclical. We're due for another big feng shui. Well, I mean, we had the KonMari methods. That's basically feng shui, but for millennials.
It's true. Yep. We have clean talk, like organizing, like those people who have the fridges, the refrigerators that do like restocks. They're super organized. I feel like that's our thing. It's like clean my house with me and also restock my perfectly already stocked and organized fridge.
Yeah. Look at my unnecessary candy, containers. I'm going to pour everything out of the containers and put them in a different container.
Yes.
And put it in a rainbow.
Yeah. And also,
I mean, yeah, those videos are kind of like aesthetically pleasing to watch in a way.
They are, but
but
cannot.
Also so unnecessary.
And also, I would never show someone like my grocery haul just because I feel like it's such a.
I don't care what you bought at the grocery store.
Okay, but I care what these people bought at the grocery store, and I want to know why they needed 25 oranges. Does their family go through that many oranges?
Because they have like some sort of special bowl or something, and they have to do a video about putting the oranges in the bowl. Or maybe they do a video where they juice all of the oranges and then put the orange juice in like a special fancy carafe that they then put in the fridge.
This one girl is buying so many oranges she has kids, but
I'm also thinking, she's probably a soccer mom and has to bring orange slices for practices.
She might be.
The other issue with those refill or restock all these things, yeah, they look great when they're completely filled. How bad do they and how disorganized do they look when they're half filled?
Yeah. And I don't know. Unnecessary. So anyways, Alan's mom.
That counts as another rant.
Yeah. Everyone take a drink.
Keep going.
Okay. So she is laying on the couch. She looks up and she saw a pair of red eyes looking in through the window.
So an animal.
Yes, possibly an animal. If you can't hear Katy, it's because she's up pouring more wine. Okay, so she does a double take, and the eyes are still there, but then when she sits up to look at them, they are gone.
So was it more like they were looking in, or was it a reflection on the glass? Because sometimes at night,
Yeah, so that's what they explain it away as. They're like, maybe you just saw like the taillights of a car or something. Which is like a great explanation. Maybe Alan's mom had also had 3 glasses of wine and was like, I don't know.
I don't see any red eyes around. Oh, shit, there's a red eye. Just kidding. It's the red light on the mic.
It's the light. Okay, so in November, so a month later, Deborah's mom is now watching the kids. And they are flipping through channels and they briefly pause on a channel. I don't know if they pause, but they briefly see a part of a scene from a movie. And the scene was there's a big bonfire and a man with a pig's head is running out of the fire. And so after this, Marianne, who's now 3-ish, I don't know, began to tell her mom that there was fire in her room, and also began to see
the pig
people
man
with pig heads and someone watching her. Literally, I have written here, that's how a toddler's brain works.
Yes.
She just saw something scary on TV and it continued to scare her. So now we have another month. It's now Christmas time, and Kenny, it's time for him to be traumatized again.
Poor Kenny. He's had it too easy.
I know. So he comes out of his room one night and he says that there is a woman standing by his door. Kudos to him for walking past her to get out of the room. According to him, this woman is 3 feet tall, very wrinkly, quote, hideous looking, rude, with long black hair and a glow around her like fire.
I mean, the fact that she was short and wrinkly probably looked old. He was like, okay, I could maybe take her.
Yeah, he's like, I'm 3 feet or more.
Yeah.
He's 8 by now.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we're about the same size, but she looks old, and I'm spry. I think I've got a fighting chance.
Yeah. So Deborah tried to convince him that it was just an angel. And he said,
no, ma'am.
Tell me why this child talks this way. He said, quote, she's too homely to be an angel. Which is like...
Homely is old-fashioned even.
I know. I'm like,
that's
okay,
hella old-fashioned.
Victorian child. Like, what a polite way to diss the ghost in your room. Saying that's why she didn't like you. You're just calling her ugly. Come on. Also, you don't know what angels look like. Biblical angels are terrifying. It could have been one. They have like 6 faces.
That's true. No. In modern Christianity, they're all blonde with blue eyes,
white people,
and very pale because white.
Because white good. Well, anyways, speaking of angels and demons, they finally call their pastor, Reverend Wayne.
Finally,
Reverend Wayne Dobratz. Okay. And let me tell you what Reverend Wayne said.
Reverend Wayne, Gary Wayne. What? Did you ever watch The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt?
Yes, I don't think I finished it, though.
It's fine. You at least met Reverend Wayne, Gary Wayne or something. Oh, gosh.
Is it the guy that runs the cult?
The cult leader / kidnapper. You do that, I'll look up. It's John Hamm.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
And that's the best thing.
John Hamm could get you to join a cult.
For sure. For sure.
So okay.
He's just so charming and handsome.
Well, everyone please now picture Reverend Wayne Dobratz as John Hamm. So Reverend Wayne says what y'all have is the devil, or if it's not the devil, it is of the devil. Also, your house is cursed. Also, what you need...
So it's demonic and cursed.
Yes. And also, what you really need to do is start going to church regularly, preferably my church. And also, he didn't say that last part, but I assume. Like, he literally called them out, being like, I don't see you at church every Sunday. I'm going to need you to be a little bit more regular about your attendance. Also said that they needed to pray and read passages from the Bible to, quote, rid the house of evil. Which, wow, that's so simple. Just go to church and pray in your house. But he did agree to bless the house for them. So he comes over and does a blessing.
Richard Wayne, Gary Wayne.
Richard Wayne, Gary Wayne. Mm-hmm. I like it. So a few days after Reverend Wayne blesses the home, Kenny sees the ugly old woman again, who's now probably mad because he called her ugly. Said she's too ugly to be an angel. This time he's in the living room. He's sleeping on the couch because he's too scared to go in his room. Poor kid. But he also says that this time the woman's bigger. She got taller.
Convenient.
I know. He apparently yelled at her to go away, but she just kept staring at him. But she did disappear when Deborah came into the room to
convenient
check on things. Yes. So we get past Christmas, January 7th, 1988 now. And this is now just like compilations of stuff that's happening. So Alan
clip show.
Yes. Alan's coming home from work. He works late. It says the night shift, but he's coming home at 1 a.m. So it's not whatever. It's late. He's coming home. As he is approaching his house, he hears a faint whistling and a gust of wind coming from the garage. Then he heard, quote, a soft but commanding voice, which I'm going to try to imitate my best, say, come here. Or, come here. So he goes around to the side of the garage because he thinks that there's someone like playing a prank on him or trespassing or whatever. But no one's there, obviously, because you can't see the ghost. And after several minutes, the howling started again, which I assume he means like the whistling. And this time, the voice was loud and said, "Come here." So he's just going straight towards the house now. He looks over his shoulder and saw a glow coming from the garage. When he goes to look, he saw flames coming out of his garage. I don't know if that means the whole garage is on fire, but certainly maybe a time to call for help. But he doesn't because he is too focused on the eyes that appear in the overhead door. Can you guess what color they were?
Green. Red.
Actually, they were green.
Really?
Okay. This is so weird because he describes them. I was like, wait a minute. Did I say the first one wrong? So he will later say that this matches the description of the red eyes that his mother saw. He describes these as shimmering green eyes punctuated with blood red pupils. So remember that. Green on the outside, red on the inside. Just hold that thought for later.
Holding.
Okay, so this happens. They are frustrated partly because they can't like determine a pattern for the activity. Like it's not like a poltergeist, it's just they don't really know what to expect. They did kind of figure out that whatever this was seemed to focus on one person at a time.
So it was the garage on fire, or was he just seeing flames?
The garage was not on fire, and we only know that because he goes inside and just goes to bed and has the thought, oh shit, my garage is on fire, I should do something, but doesn't, and the house does not burn down, and there's no evidence of a fire in the garage. So I don't know, he's tripping, everyone's hallucinating, I don't know what's happening. Alan wants at this point to physically secure the house. He wants to like put bars on the basement windows, which might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because you might have a squatter. They were still thinking that it was a possibility that, quote, someone had a grudge against them and had used black magic or witchcraft to get even. Guess who did not discourage that idea?
The Reverend?
Reverend Wayne. I don't think
Richard Wayne, Gary Wayne.
I don't think he encouraged it, but he was like, yeah, that's a possibility. Someone could have witchcraft you.
Oh my gosh, like who are these people that and who have you offended so greatly that they've sought out witchcraft and hexes?
And you know what's funny is Alan basically said that. He was like, I'm basically a good person, like I've never done anything, and
sure I might have cut somebody off in traffic once or twice before.
But I was also like, well, you did threaten to leave your wife and newborn child not long ago.
So yeah, if you could do that to your wife, what are you going to do to strangers?
So a couple days later,
after the not fire,
after the house did not burn down, Alan was in the girls' room waiting for them to fall asleep, and he began to hear a high-pitched sound like a vacuum cleaner. Then, this is like finally something big happening. Then a fog appeared, and it began to rise out of the carpet. It began to look kind of human-shaped. It was shimmering, apparently. It's like a gold cloud or gold. What's that stuff? Diamond dust.
I'm now picturing Tobias Funke with the diamond cream.
And in the midst of its like humanoid form and face, red eyes with sickly green pupils.
So the reverse.
I don't know if this author just made a mistake, but it really bothered me. I'm like, does it have red eyes or does it have green eyes?
Come on, if you're going to have a haunting, be consistent.
Be consistent. It's not that hard. There's only been 3 appearances of the eyes.
Come on, ghosts.
Or are there 2? There's like the garage ghost and then there's this thing.
They're like the opposite twins.
They are. They're like the yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
So the ghost begins moving towards him and it points at him and it says, "You're dead." Which I think is either a huge plot twist and Alan has been dead the whole time, or this is like a mobster ghost. He's like, you're dead. Like I'm gonna, like a threat. Like you did something, I'm gonna kill you.
Or the ghost is repeating what people have said to him, like, you can't be here, you're dead.
Or like the last thing he ever heard before he died.
Maybe.
Oh, you're dead.
And we've talked about different, ghosts and like apparitions, and sometimes it's not so much a ghost as it is like
an energy.
And it kind of just replays that moment because it's like such emotional turmoil or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like a live photograph that replays.
Yes, like in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
So the shimmery, misty guy dissipates before it gets to him, and apparently it burst into flame, which seems very dramatic.
Oh, sorry, to rewind just a little bit, talking about they live on a loop. Supernatural. We haven't referenced Supernatural in a while.
Yeah.
Remember the episode where they ended up actually helping two ghosts, and that was the plot twist. Was basically they, this woman was running through the woods and she was being chased down by like this hunter or whatever.
I think I do remember this.
And they rescued her from this like murderous hunter guy, and they helped because he was a ghost, and so they got rid of that ghost, and then they brought her back to her home where her husband was living with his new wife.
Oh, that's right.
Because she had died like 7 years prior, and so basically it was two ghosts haunting this same stretch of highway, and they were both stuck in this loop, and it was like kind of intertwined and whatnot.
Nice.
So sorry for the spoilers if you haven't seen that one, but also the show has been out for decades.
I was gonna say one spoiler in like 25 seasons. You'll be okay. There's plenty more.
It was a really good episode, and that was a really great plot twist where you're like, oh, she's a ghost too.
I'm going to have to start watching Supernatural again. That needs to be my comfort show, honestly. Man, I'll tell you later. Okay. So Alan is obviously freaked out.
I'll do a rewatch with you.
Okay.
Also, you still owe me more movie night.
I know.
Stop being lame.
Well, we're recording now. It's another Thursday. Okay. So Alan freaks out. He also freaks everyone else out. So the whole family is now freaking out.
Yeah, so much for waiting for the girls to go to sleep.
Yeah, for real.
He wakes up the entire house instead. You had one job, man.
I know. And who
now you are dead because your wife is going to be
the ghost
pissed.
was just a little late in his appearance. He was foreshadowing.
Yeah, and he wasn't late. He was just like, you're dead. Well,
eventually.
Not yet, but you about to be.
Eventually.
Your wife is going to be pissed.
Well, guess who they call?
Ghostbusters?
No, better.
Richard Wayne, Gary Wayne?
Richard Wayne, Gary Wayne. They call Pastor Wayne. So he says, in all of his wisdom, he's like, okay, you have to get out of the house and you can't go back until after you go to church tomorrow. He has the clearest agenda.
Are they having like a problem with attendance?
Apparently they must be. So
church is the answer for everything.
So they leave. They go stay with family for the night.
Haunting? Church. Hexed? Church.
Both.
Hemorrhoids? Church.
So the next morning they're like, hey, we have to go to church. We're going to leave for church. They get in their car and their car would not start. Mind you, this book the book mansplained to me what jumping a car meant. I don't know. It was
Is this still in the winter?
Yeah. It's in January.
Okay, so it's in January and we're in Missouri?
Wisconsin,
sorry. I don't know why I
Missouri was last week. We were in Missouri and Kansas.
That was it. You're in a cold place in January.
Yeah.
And snow. And so, yeah, sometimes if a car has been outside in the cold.
Yeah.
And it is very cold still, the car does not always want to start.
Yeah.
There was a reason that I had to walk, 3 kilometers in the, almost knee-deep snow.
Oh, gosh.
When I was in Canada in January. Because my friend's car wouldn't start. So I had to walk to the bar to watch the Saints in the playoff.
Oh my gosh. Important things.
I had a wild night, though. That was totally worth it.
Well,
totally worth it.
Obviously, they call Pastor Wayne. Right. And they're like, Pastor Wayne, our car won't start. And Pastor Wayne says, wait until after church starts and then try again. And so they do.
I'd rather you be late than not here at all.
They try again. Car starts right up. So they were like, oh, the demon just wanted us to miss the beginning of church. Like, that's my question. How long into church did you wait? Did you just get there like 15 minutes late?
Oh, they're not going to go in and like, we got to wait. You can't go. Oh, church has already started. You're gonna crash into the back and everyone's gonna look at you and like everyone knows you don't interrupt service. All right, now you can go wherever you want because I know you're not going to church because it already started. Haha, there's also an 11 a.m. service, demon.
I know. I'm like, how big is this church? They might have 3 services. So I don't know if they missed church, but Pastor Wayne came over after church to administer communion. Because it's magic. And
seriously, eating something even that symbolizes body and blood. Like, come on, you're basically miming cannibalism.
And it's a metaphor. And like,
you are miming cannibalism.
Okay, so they take their magic communion, and then Pastor Wayne says, here are some cassette tapes of religious music, and I want you to play these in the house because that'll also help. You've taken your magic communion. Now here's some Amy Grant to play on the radio that you've put in the closet.
Hey, it's just a radio. It's just a clock radio. Sorry. It doesn't have the cassette player.
My radio from the 80s has a cassette player.
Not all radios from the 80s have cassette players. Okay. Some of them have 8 tracks.
It's a shame he didn't have any 8 tracks with him. So the family...
Maybe it was late 80s. I think 8 tracks were kind of...
Yeah, that's true. They're on their way out. So they're
too bulky. You need something sleek. The cassette.
They do as they're told. They play their music all night. And they were like, oh my gosh, it was the most peaceful night. Nothing happened. Alan said, quote, it seemed like whatever was there just could not tolerate that church music. It reminds me so much of the thing that I think is so cheesy about hauntings, where I'm like, wow, you got a really Catholic demon who really hates to see that
the power of Christ's music compels you.
Oh my gosh. They just could not tolerate that church music. Okay, so the following morning, January 11th, everyone's feeling like...
After their night of church music.
After their night of worship. Everyone's feeling cautiously optimistic. Alan has to go into work, so first of all, in this book, they describe him as a relative named Jonathan, who's 16. They also later refer to Deborah as Jonathan's sister-in-law. So I'm assuming Jonathan is Alan's brother. Right? Or Deborah's... No, that has to be it. He's not married to anyone.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm assuming it's Uncle Jonathan. He's 16.
Yeah.
He came over just so also be in the house, because Deborah has to be in this creepy ass house by herself all day
with 3 kids. I mean, unless Kenny's at school.
You're right. So Jonathan's there helping out. He's playing with the kids in the rumpus room in the basement. Call back to a previous episode, Everyone Drink. I just saw that and I was like, oh yeah, rumpus rooms. Those are real. So around 7:30,
we had a whole discussion about rumpus rooms.
That's the only reason I put that sentence in here. It's otherwise not important.
I don't remember what sparked the discussion about rumpus rooms, but
it was the one where the guy was hiding. Wait. Yeah, the one where the guy was stalking the girl and hiding and pretending to be a ghost.
Living
they had a
behind
rumpus
the toilet.
Room. Yeah.
Which also hella creepy because is he watching people go to the bathroom?
Right?
Ugh.
Okay, so around 7:30, they come upstairs so the kids can get ready for bed. They wanted Uncle Jonathan to read to them. The girls did. So he's like, of course, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. So he's in there reading to them or waiting for them to go to sleep, whatever. Deborah's in the kitchen. Suddenly, by the way, get ready to hate Deborah. Sorry, I'm being really judgy, but I have a reason. So all of a sudden, Jonathan starts screaming from the kids' room for Deborah to get in there. She can hear the girls crying. Jonathan saying, Deborah, you have to come in here. Deborah's too scared to go in there. That's not the part that I'm judging her on quite yet.
I am.
I
will run into a burning building if my kid is in there. I don't care what's going on. If my kid is scared, I'm going to go remove them from that situation or figure out what's going on.
Yes. Well, instead she calls Pastor Wayne, who doesn't answer. So then Kenny comes running in. He's like, what's going on? She says, go into your sister's room and see what's wrong.
So she sends her other kid.
Mm-hmm. This is the part where I'm judging her. Because he says, no, I can't. This kid is like fucking anxiety riddled, traumatized. Like he already hates the house. He's like, no, I can't. He's 8. She screams at him and says to go into his sister's room and come back and tell her what's going on. That's the part where I'm like, that's being a shitty mother, Deborah. I'm sorry. Don't force your child to do something he's scared to do. Don't force your child to go into a potential danger.
Okay. So seemingly a random tangent, but I have a reason. And also having to think about things like this is going to help keep my cortisol levels lower.
Okay.
Because I just want to punch something right now.
Okay.
I worked at the national park. Mm-hmm. And they had a problem with feral pigs. And it was basically feral pigs had actually crossbred with Russian boars because somebody had kept Russian boars on a neighboring property.
Of course they have.
For like hunting purposes. So people could come and, hunt these Russian boars.
Mm-hmm. Hate that.
A Hurricane Rita came through and like knocked down a bunch of fences and a lot of flooding allowed. So basically these Russian boars got out and mated with the feral hogs. So you had really smart feral hogs with really big and really mean Russian boars.
Gross.
So you don't want those things together.
Right.
So there was pigs reproduce like rabbits.
Right.
And so while I was working there was a big problem with the feral hog population. And so they had set up some traps and how smart they were. There would be, kind of a corral, and inside was a whole bunch of feed for the pigs. And so there was some like motion sensor camera things. So once, pigs went in to go and get the feed after a certain amount of time to let all the pigs get in, the door would close.
Right. And
they would be trapped and then culled.
Right.
Mamas got real wise real quick.
Okay.
And Mama pigs would send one of her piglets in whenever they would come across, like, oh, look, food. And she'd be like, wait, Jimmy, go check out the food. And Jimmy would go in and start eating the food. And she'd be like, wait. And then the door would drop. And she'd be like, nope, we're moving on. So Mama Pig was sacrificing some of her piglets. It's like the fate of the one for the good of the many or whatever. And that's what I'm thinking of. I'm comparing Deborah to a feral hog sacrificing her children.
Yep.
But again, she's a human.
Yes.
She's probably done having kids unless she just sent all 3 of her children.
Right.
To be murdered.
The room where you're
and then she's like, oh, all my kids are dead, so I'm going to go have some more elsewhere. Whereas, like, a pig is like, nope, I just have to survive and reproduce. That is my job. I'm so angry.
It's okay. I'm going to cut it with a little bit of comedy.
We need a lot of comedy.
So, Kenny, unfortunately, does what he's told. And he comes out and he says, Mom, it's there. I can see it. Then Marianne comes out and she says, it's baby Jesus and he loves you. Don't be afraid.
She been drinking the Kool-Aid, listen to that Christian music too much.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently, Deborah had tried to convince them that this thing that they would see.
Well, she said it was an angel. The wrinkly old hag was an angel.
So she's trying to convince them that like the shimmery, smoky guy was baby Jesus, which is so funny to me because now everyone's like freaking out, running around. Deborah said she was running around the house saying, "No, that's not baby Jesus," which is like such a wild phrase to have to scream to your children.
Especially after you told them it was. Like, come on, woman.
I know. So they get
a bad parent.
It's not great. They get everyone out of the house. They drive to Alan's work, and they're like, we can't stay in the house. Kenny does say, by the way, as they're driving away, he's like, "Mom, it's looking at us through the window." And Debbie's like, "Nope, not looking at that. I'm driving." So they get Alan. She basically says, like,
is she like frantically also smoking a cigarette at this point? Because
she's just a chain smoker.
I'm imagining her with like, she's all done up and dressed up, sitting and driving the family station wagon.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle brother Jonathan is in the passenger seat, and Kenny and the girls are in the back seat.
Facing seat, looking out the. Oh man, yes, that's exactly what happened. What's happening?
Yeah, the girls are in like car seats in the middle row, and Kenny's on like the trunk seat.
Yeah, that cool trunk seat.
And she's just. The windows are down. Her hair and her curls are kind of blowing around a little bit, and she's
kind of
frantically hitting that cigarette.
Yes. So whatever. They decide they're not going to stay at the house. As they are driving, I think they end up going to the church first, but they're going to stay with one of their 500 relatives that they have. While they're doing that, Alan,
they got to go to confession to church, right?
They need more magic communion. It didn't last.
Didn't take.
As they're driving, Alan, who's in a separate car because he had to drive to work, he has Jonathan with him, and he is like, "Tell me what happened." So Jonathan said the girls had fallen asleep. He was just kind of laying there, making sure they were asleep. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, Sarah popped up and said, "Hi there." And he thought maybe Deborah had come into the room and he hadn't seen her. So he turns to see who she's talking to, and he sees the misty human thing that Alan had seen.
With the eyes
that are either green or red.
Or both. But in different
swap. Yeah.
Wrinkly and
yeah, it's all the same thing. So this thing starts coming towards him. He has another one-liner, but different. He says, "Now you're involved?" Not as a question, but I thought it'd be so much funnier. He says, "Now you're involved."
If that was a question, hilarious. Statement, ominous. Because, well, now you're involved, so now you're part of this.
That's true. I guess if he had said, well, the way that you said it, that does sound creepy. I think it's such an unhinged thing for a demon ghost to say. And I love the exasperated idea of like, ugh, now you're
another
involved.
one.
Okay, so the ghost either says, "Ugh, now you're involved," or "Now you're involved." One of those. But then
again, if it's like gangster of "you're dead,"
yeah,
and it's like a gangster echo, it's like, "Well, now you're involved too, Jimmy."
Yeah,
You're dead too.
This is just a Jimmy Hoffa in ghost form. But then it disappears, right? So it just makes threats and then leaves. Alan insisted on driving by the house on their way to, I think it's his mom's where they're going to stay. He said when he drove by, every light in the house was on, per Travis Tritt. And making sure someone got that. And Deborah had specifically said she had turned off most of the lights before they left. And just
I don't know. Did they leave in like a frantic huff?
Yeah, but I don't know. But because we need one more little nugget of wisdom from Pastor Wayne, he said, quote, "The house was lit up, but it's not costing you a dime." How do you know? "There's no energy there. It's this thing that's giving the house energy to show that there are lights on in the house. No
there
one else
is energy, though. He
know.
said there's no energy there, but there's a thing that's giving the house energy.
Yeah.
So is there or isn't there energy?
Well, then he also says no one else can see it from the outside. Which, how do you know? What are your qualifications, Pastor Wayne? What are your credentials?
Do they teach hauntings? Like, is it haunting 101 at Centenary?
That's
Like,
such a specific thing for him to say. I don't know. Also, guarantee it is costing you a lot of money. I had to go on a paranormal page on Facebook today to say, hey, can hauntings cause your electrical bill to go up? Because our electric bill at the Allander house is really high and we're never there. And it's also haunted. The consensus was no. I just need an electrician to go check stuff out.
yeah, you probably do need to go.
I know. It's annoying. Okay. So they eventually get all their stuff out of the house. They don't ever live there again. Word gets around town.
Oh no, not their dream house.
Not their dream ranch home. Word gets around town, so there's a bunch of rumors about the haunted house. People make up stories. The police get involved for some reason, and then they're like weirdly compassionate about the whole thing and like try to be helpful. Which I'm not like.
I mean, if rumors are circulating in the town that the place is haunted, like it becomes that house, and like all the kids know, like, oh, you don't go to that house. It's the spooky house. I can imagine teenagers like breaking into the home. That's probably how police get involved.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. They investigate the house for any evidence of like someone pranking them. So they're looking for like microphones or like projectors or something that could like explain some stuff. They don't find anything. And in fact, the chief of police described the house as, quote, a very warm, cozy little house that just made you feel like home. So I'm like,
so you live there.
Opposite vibes. Eventually, early the following year, the Tallmans signed the house over to the Farmers Home Administration. That was who they got their loan from. They lost about $3,000 in the deal, which is about $7,500 today. Okay. So, like, not a small amount, but, like, in the scheme of things.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about how much houses cost.
Yeah.
You know, you never know. Like, it's always a gamble. You know, whether it's a haunted house or not.
Yeah.
You know, you buy a house and then, you know, you're not guaranteed to sell it at the price at which you bought it.
Yeah.
So, like, Shelton and I, like, if we were to sell our house now, our house is almost doubled in value just because of inflation and everything. But if we wait another year or two, because, again, I said the market, I think, is cooling off, we might sell it for, you know, close to what we paid for it.
Right. Yeah.
There's always the chance that we would have to be forced to sell it for less than we paid for it.
Right.
Which I refuse to do because of the amount of work that we put into that house. But.
Right. But also, if you'd been living in that house for a year and a half and were allegedly being, or at least you believed you were being, like, tormented by demons, maybe worth the $7,500.
$7,500, I guess, is a worthwhile cost for your sanity,
especially if you get to live rent free for several months while you're looking for another place.
You say rent free, but if they're staying with their parents and in-laws, like, that's not really rent free. That is, you are paying rent in the form of your mental health of living with your parents or in-laws. I don't care how great of a relationship you have with them.
You don't pay for a new house with relationships. You pay for it with money, which you are saving. The Farmers Home Association did resell the house to another family. They have not reported anything spooky happening in the house. So it was kind of just the one-time
isolated event. Maybe they bought the house and realized, oh my God, we bought a ranch.
We bought a ranch. We don't want to talk about it.
This is not our dream home. We messed up.
Oops.
I know. Let's invent a haunting.
Oh my gosh. The Tallmans eventually bought another home in another city. They were never bothered by paranormal events again.
Well, it's because they didn't take the haunted bunk bed with them.
That's true. I never found out what happened to those. I also didn't watch the end of the Unsolved Mysteries episode, so maybe that.
There's a haunted dump somewhere.
Probably is.
Because a spooky bunk bed is lying under a pile of trash. Ooh.
One reporter who, unlike so many other papers that just like ate up this story, this reporter thought that the story wasn't worth running. And he said, quote, "It's far easier to explain this as the imperfectibility of the human brain." And that's the story of the haunting on Larabee Street.
Agreed.
I know. I was like, oh man, we're really working up to that ending that I've got planned.
Also, the imperfectibility of the human mind. Also, the lack of knowledge of pets ownership.
And like apparently the lack of knowledge of toddlers and how nightmares work. Color blindness,
childhood development.
But also possibly like
color blindness. There's red-green colorblind, so you can't tell the difference between red and green. It all looks kind of brownish.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
So if they were colorblind, they wouldn't be able to tell.
They'd just be like, it's green eyes or it's red eyes. Anyways, that one was it was more believable than the one that I can't remember. That other the Smurl haunting.
But less believable than the one with the single dad and the 3 children.
Yes, I was thinking about that
like
one.
the angel painting.
We're still Instagram friends.
Yeah, so like that's our range.
Yes,
this one's somewhere in between.
Yeah,
I think it's a little more on the.
I think they had a haunting, but like not as dramatic as they maybe thought.
I think they hyped it up. I think they hyped it up in their minds themselves.
And like no one but Kenny ever saw the old lady. And
I mean, I think they had young children and stressed and unhappy adults.
Yes, I agree. And a mom who was home all day thinking about these things.
Crazy. So that's the 80s for you, folks. And if you wonder why Gen X turned out the way that they did.
Oh, gosh.
Freaking cynics. Oh, gosh. I'm not hating on Gen X because I'm a millennial who identifies as Gen X. I was very disappointed to find out that I missed the cutoff for Gen X by, 3 years, 5 years?
Oh yeah, not too far.
Yeah, no, I'm a cusper. I'm on the cusp.
Oh
anywho, there's no photos from tonight's episode.
Yeah, sorry. The only picture I found a picture of the house, but like we've already decided that the house
it's a ranch. You're not missing anything. But for other photos from other episodes or just sometimes some fun updates from our life and stuff, you can find that on our Facebook and Instagram. Just search the Tales We Tell podcast. And if you want to see photos and pictures and whatnot, don't do the social media, check out our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. And if you want to support us and get yourself some sweet, sweet swag, check out our Redbubble store. Search The Tales We Tell. We've got several different logos, and you can put that on anything. If you want to support us and don't need the stuff, become patrons like our new patron / dear old friend, Amanda. You get early access, commercial-free listening, free stickers, and bonus content, and we'll send out love notes and Christmas cards, all the good stuff.
Yes.
And as always, our undying love and affection.
Always.
And lastly, if you want to support us and you don't have the extra money, the cheapest / freest, easiest way is to go to our YouTube. Just go youtube.com, search The Tales We Tell podcast, like and subscribe. It's just another way to listen to the podcast. And also, if you just hit the like and subscribe button, it really helps us kind of get more traction, becomes more visible to other people, so there will be other listeners like your beautiful selves.
Yes.
And
that's it.
It'll help us keep doing what we do.
Yep. And we have a special episode next week.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
For sure. We have a special episode is all I'll say.
It happening.
And then who knows after that? I don't.
I don't either.
But we'll see you guys then.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.